Hi, this is your instructor, Teresa Pelkie. Welcome to our class. The form tag has several attributes. Every form element has a name attribute to identify it and an ID attribute that is used for style sheets in JavaScript. The form tag generally doesn't need a name or ID, but it can have one. The action attribute is extremely important. The action indicates the name of the processing script that will call this form or process the form. This script or program resides on the server. The method tells the browser how to send the name-value pairs. The method can either be a post or a get. The encoding type attribute is only used if a file upload element is being used, such as an attachment, or if a mail to is being used, and we will cover that later. The target is the same for a link, allows you to target it into a new window. So the most important things that we need to take into consideration is the action, which specifies the file name of the script to process the form, and the method. The encoding type might be needed, but usually you don't need it. Okay, so here's an example of the action of a form, and we're calling a script. What this script does, it will intercept the name-value pairs and process them somehow. And how the name-value pairs are processed depends on how the script is written. Here we have an example of using the method attribute. Method equals get means that the name-value pairs are being sent in the header of the message. You can actually see these name-value pairs in the address bar or the URL. You might hear the term query string. A method equals get looks very much like a query string in the browser address bar. Method equals post, on the other hand, sends the name-value pairs in the body of the message. You generally will use a post in most situations. The encoding type determines how the form data should be encoded before being sent to the server. Now, this is the default value, so you don't even have to write this. This is how the information will be encoded unless you specify otherwise. If we were using input type equals file that will allow us to attach a file to our form, then we need to set the encoding attribute to multi-part/form-data. If we were using a mail to as the action of a form, then we would need to set our encoding type to text/plain. Now, this mail to was used in the early days of the web, and what this does, this actually launches the client mail program. Because we generally use email, web-based mail, this doesn't work very well anymore. And in the days that we did use it, this is kind of like what it would look like. So here we see the names and values being joined with an equal sign, and each name-value pair is separated by an ampersand. So let's take a look at how this might work in real life. In my HTML editor here, I have several files. And we will look at, I have a demo form where my action is set to a static HTML file and my method equals post. So a good way to understand what I mean by the action is I'm just going to create a file, and this is my file right here, okay, and it says that it represents the action of the form. So if I process this form using a method equals post, it will call this action. Actually, nothing will really happen. If I have another file with another form with my method equals get, and I call that same action, we can actually see the name value pairs being passed to the browser. In reality, you would use a PHP or other server technology script. And this is the example of the PHP script that I have on the internet in the example in the handout. And if you notice, this PHP is actually inside an HTML document, and all of the code inside the opening PHP tag and the closing PHP tag is actually processed by the PHP program that's on the server, and it's translated into HTML and it's sent back to the browser as an HTML document. So what this program is actually saying, it's saying we are creating a variable called message. It's $message. We're setting it, right now it equals nothing. We have a for each loop, and $_post is a built-in variable in PHP, and it collects all the name value pairs. So what we're doing, we're looping through all the name value pairs, and for those where the value is not equal to nothing, what we're doing, we're formatting them in this format. So this is an printf function, and we're formatting them in essentially name : value with a line break. And what we're doing, we're looping, and every time we go through the loop, we're adding another name value pair to our string. And I have two variables. One variable collects the message essentially for the web page, and the other one collects the message that's going to be sent in the email message. So what this script is doing, it's collecting the information, processing it, parsing it out, writing it to the page, and it's also sending it to my email address. So we have a mail function. It's built into PHP. It's sending the email here. It's giving me a subject line, and it's also, here's my message, which is compiled using the PHP program, and here is my hypothetical from. That's not even a real from. And anyway, so let's take a look at the browser so we can get an understanding of how this is working. Okay, first of all, here's my demo form that is actually at this website, and this is on your handout. And if I were to type some information into my form here, and if I were to click send, now take a look at our URL. Okay, this is actually index.html. It's the default file that's loading. Now when I submit this form, it is being submitted to the action. The action here is email.php. It is being submitted using a post, and notice this is the file. All right, and here's what we say. Thank you, your message has been received. And here we see the name value pairs being echoed back on the page. If I look at the source code for this, I will notice that all I have is HTML, because this information was processed by PHP and it was sent back down to me as HTML. Now if I look at my email, here it is sending me the information from the form. So you generally at least would use a server-sided script to send the information back to you. There's a lot more that you can do with it also. Okay, so let's take a look at our files that I have here in our editor. And here, if I were to type some information here into my form, and I'll just type two things here. And this is my demo file that's local on my own computer. And if I were to hit the submit button, I am calling that static HTML file. All right, so here it is. There's script.html being called by the form. That is the action. So clicking the action is very similar to clicking a link. It brings up that file, and it will do whatever that file tells you to do. Okay, let's take a look at our demo form. All right, let me scroll back up. Let me put some information, a little bit of information here. I'll fill it all the way in. Teresa, and there's Pelkie. I spelled my name wrong. All right, that's Okay. Okay, so we only have 2 name value pairs, and the drop-down list, please select one, is selected by default. I'll put some comments here. Comments are here. And if now this is a method equals post if I submit this form. Okay, here we are. There is my script. It called this file, the action. Notice after it we have a question mark. That is the beginning of what's generally referred to as a query string. And here I have my name value pairs. This is the name of my form element, equals, and I'm just going to hit the end key. Okay, so here's name equals Teresa, ampersand. So we're joining the first name value pair with the second name value pair. Last name equals Pelkie, ampersand. Cars equals choose one. That was by default. And notice the space is represented by a plus sign. Ampersand, comments equal. Comments are here. So a very good way to test your form to make sure that all your name value pairs are being returned is to just go into your editor and develop a fake action, use method equals get, and you can actually test locally to see your name value pairs being returned.